Hi everyone, this is Dr. Kasha Wilk here. I wanted to speak about everything that's going on in the world right now. I'm a counseling psychologist and I feel like it's part of my duty of care to really help all of us collectively navigate these uncertain times that we're currently going through. I know that just listening to the media, seeing what's going on in terms of COVID-19, this global outbreak that's been going on, we're all feeling the effects of it. I think it's probably the first time in history where it is reached such a global pandemic. And I know myself, there's been an impact of being able to navigate that in a really powerful way. And I know that many of you may not know how to navigate these times. Yeah, there's a lot that's happening, not just in terms of protecting our health, but not knowing what's going to happen in the coming days, like that really big feeling of uncertainty that we're all feeling. We don't know what's going to happen, maybe economically, job-wise. Everybody's feeling that uncertainty, and so there is this collective feeling of fear that naturally happens in us when we're stepping into the unknown and we don't really know what's going to happen. So it's really important that we not just look after our physical health during these times, but we really learn how to look after our mental and our emotional well-being. Because as soon as you start getting present to that uncertainty, to the impact of what's happening, it's very natural to start worrying, to start getting stressed and anxious, and then of course the feelings come, and then we're kind of caught up in this cycle where we might not know what to do. Yeah, maybe you're at home right now, you're working from home and you're just trying to adjust to that, or maybe you're self-isolating because you are having symptoms and you're feeling quite lonely. There's all kinds of things that could be going on for you right now, and my intention here is to help you navigate this time so that you really feel empowered to move forward in a positive way, and that you really have those coping strategies in place to really help and support you, because we all really need this collectively together. So I'm really happy to share that with you today. So this first lesson that I'm going to share with you is all about dealing with our mind, because it's very natural when you're faced with uncertainty like we are today to all of a sudden have all kinds of questions. We have maybe those what if questions, like what if this catastrophic thing ends up happening, and your mind will go into all kinds of scenarios that are particular to you, or also maybe you're focusing on just the situation that you're in right now and kind of catastrophizing it and making it worse, thinking about the fact that you can't do certain things that you really want to do right now. So how we navigate our minds during this time is everything, because our mind is such a powerful tool, and oftentimes when there's a trigger for danger, some kind of a threat, our minds go into that survival mode where we just are not always seeing things from a really empowered perspective. We're kind of in that fight or flight mode. So today I want to help you, support you in dealing with some negative predictions that you may have, which I think a lot of us are feeling right now, right? It's that kind of, what if this happens? I won't be able to cope with this. Oh my gosh, how am I going to deal with this? It's all of that thinking that comes up in our mind. So we're going to do an exercise today that's going to help you shift your perspective a little bit to understand that you probably already know what you need to do and how you need to cope with it, but you maybe haven't accessed that perspective yet. So this lesson is going to allow us to go back and really tap into our own inner wisdom and bring that out in the current circumstances, and really understand how we really do have that wisdom within us if we just tap into and ask the right questions. So that's what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So I want you to, for a moment now, close your eyes, and I want you to go back and just think about a year ago. If I was going back and looking at myself a year ago, was there any particular thing that I was worried about 1 year ago that I can just bring to my mind? Could be a personal issue, it could be something to do with work, maybe finances or your health. Just see if you can conjure up an image of something that you were worried about a year ago and you were predicting it was going to go horribly wrong. Now that you have conjured up that image and that worrisome thought, I want you to notice what actually happened that you were worrying about. So if you kind of look over the last year and you think, this is something I was really worried about, and then I begin to notice what actually happened over the last year. Did that thing actually happen? Did that prediction actually come true? Just notice if it actually did. And if it did, how did you manage it? How did you handle it? How did you cope with it? Or maybe you found out that it actually didn't come true. Or maybe some parts of it came true, but actually it wasn't as bad as I thought that it would be. It wasn't kind of that catastrophic, super negative outcome that I thought it would be. So just see if you can kind of conjure up those images and begin to notice what you can learn from this experience of going back and looking at, what did I worry about a year ago? And did that actually come true? Because what you'll begin to notice is that our minds oftentimes are predicting things that really don't happen, or as you're doing now, maybe you'll find that whatever it was that I thought would happen, I managed to get through it. Like, I'm still here, and right now, perhaps what I worried about a year ago isn't really that big of a deal. You know, back then I was super worried, I was super anxious about it, but right now I can look back on it and think, you know what, it wasn't really that bad, or I got through it, or I built up some resiliency around getting through that thing that I was worried about at the time. So what you can notice is that these things will happen, and again, whatever you're worried about at the moment, you can begin to notice and pay attention that it probably in a year's time will not be so bad. So here's the last part to this exercise. So I want you just to think about, if I was to go back to myself a year ago and give myself some advice around what I would do back then, what advice would you give yourself? Take a moment to really go back and almost sit with yourself and tell yourself, what would I tell myself at that moment? And as you're creating kind of that visual image of what you would say, take a moment to actually write that down. And now as you've done that, think about if I was to step into that same space and give myself advice currently about the thing that I'm worrying about. And I would think to another year ahead, if I was to look back on this moment from a year ahead, what advice would I give myself about the current situation I'm in? Would there be a similar perspective, or maybe an even more wise perspective? So see if you can think about, what advice would I give myself now if I was looking at my future self, and just take a moment to jot it down. Great. So now what you'll probably find as you're reading the advice that you're giving yourself is that you actually have quite a lot of wisdom within you. And what you'll probably find is that you're beginning to see the situation from a completely different perspective. Maybe it's not as bad as you originally were thinking. And also you're probably realizing that you can handle things a lot better than you think you can, because you've already handled things in the past that you thought were catastrophic. You got through it, you found ways to deal with it and cope with it. And so you probably already have a lot of resources within you that you're not acknowledging at the current moment to handle whatever you're dealing now. So now that you've learned this exercise, do really go back and practice it on a daily basis. Yeah, you probably find that you do have a lot of wisdom within you that you've just tapped into, and I would really encourage you to continue trusting in that. And now that your perspective is beginning to shift perhaps on whatever it is that you're worrying about, we're going to go in deeper in the next lesson to also work with the emotional side of stress and anxiety. So I'm going to be showing you an exercise on how to navigate that. And in the meantime, do go and apply what you've learned today and notice the shifts that begin to take place in your life right now.